are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more, no
Most
more.
people walk around with a bit of generalized anxiety and or fear. That is far more common in our society than we would like to embrace or accept. More than that, it is actually perpetuated by the media, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It's just the truth. The media is there to enrage you and engage you, and therefore when it enrages you, it must make you afraid. It must make you concerned about something. However, the challenge with having these fears and this anxiety is that many of us live with it on a daily basis, and we can actually dial it down in a number of significant ways. And the way I want to talk about today is what I often call stabbing it with a pencil. So let me give you a very definite example. I woke up the other morning, as we often do, all of us, with a load of stuff on my mind. Well, I've got this challenge, and then I've got this challenge, and none of it is earth-shaking, I've got to fill out these forms, and I've got to do this, and I need to do that, and I don't know if this person's going to get back to me. It's more of a rehashing almost of my to-do list, but there's also some fear in there because I'm dealing with uncertainties. What is the number one uncertainty that we all deal with? Other people. That's exactly right. Other people. Other people are just like us. They are neurochemical beings, which means on any given day, they are completely different from how they were yesterday or how they're going to be tomorrow. And that is true of me as well. Sometimes I can be the most on-the-spot person about things, and then sometimes I will just completely forget things. And that is much more rare. However, it does happen. So what I want to do is to encourage you to sit down and, as I've suggested before, stab your problems with a pencil. Write them out. That's step number one. The reason you want to do this, doesn't have to be a pencil, by the way. It can be a pen, or you can type it on your computer. The point is to ask yourself, what's upsetting me? Now, I know that sounds incredibly negative, but it's not. It actually makes things a lot more positive, because when you write at the top of the page, and I've got tons of journal entries that begin with, what's upsetting me? And then I write, okay? And then when I get to the end, I'm like, come on, there's got to be more. Come on, Will, you were so concerned. You were so discordant this morning. You were so unsure. Come on, there's got to be more that's upsetting you. And so then I'll start really writing down little tiny petty things. I can't even think of, I know, I got one right now. I ordered some prescription sunglasses a month ago, and they haven't arrived yet. Doesn't really impact my life terribly. I look forward to my new prescription, etc. But it's not a huge deal. But I would put that on the list. That's upsetting me because it's been a month and I haven't heard back from these people, etc., etc. And all that. By the way, I did hear from them yesterday. But the point is, you want to get even more petty, okay? The reason you do this is, number one, what you're going to discover is there's a lot less than you think. When you've got stuff swirling around in your head, it's really more of on a loop than anything else. It's not like you got lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of problems, although you probably got more than your share. And remember, we all do every day. But if you've got problems, you want to make sure that you write them all down, because you're going to be surprised at how few they are. I remember when I discovered this, I forget where I was living. Oh, I know where I was. I was in Kansas City. I was living in an apartment, and I started writing down my problems because I had so many of them, I thought. I felt like I was at the lowest of my low, the worst of the worst. I was feeling sorry for myself, having a grand old pity party, me the guest of honor. And so I wrote out everything that was bothering or upsetting me. The interesting thing is, as I wrote these things down, I kept giving myself permission to, come on, Will, come up with more. You've got to have more than that, Will. Come on, what else, Will? And I kept thinking, and I kept thinking, and I kept thinking, and I came up with 9 things. 9 things, and that was it. So the first thing you want to do, stab your problems with a pencil. You'll realize that you have fewer of them than you think. Okay? Number 2, once you stab them with a pencil, you want to go through and ask yourself one of 2 things. Can I do anything about this? Or do I just simply have to grow through it, wait, be patient, etc.? Can I do anything about it? Or is this something that I need to step aside from? If it's something you need to step aside from and just allow it to unfold, whether you feel uncomfortable or not, at that point, you get to where you feel good. You give it to God. You say, literally, I can't handle this. Obviously, there's nothing I can do, but I trust that you can, and I release it. So now you've gone from 9 problems down to maybe 5, all right? Once you get down to 5 and the ones that you can do something about, then what you want to do is to ask yourself, what am I doing and what can I do? If I'm actually already doing some stuff, is there more that I can do that would help, that would be constructive, not panic or frantic? What can I do to gently move this along? Once you've then isolated, number 1, what your problems are, given the ones that you can't do anything about, over to God and taken on the ones that you can, and then ask yourself, what can you do to constructively work on them? Then go back and look at the entire list, even the list that you've given to God, and play out likely scenarios. And this I call if then. And by the way, if you think this is a ton of work, which your ego is freaking out right now. You know why? Because everything I'm suggesting you do will remove the grip from the ego in your consciousness. The ego uses fear to keep you scared and off balance. This sounds like a big deal, but if you and I were doing this in a seminar, and I'm going to be doing a live seminar coming up. If you and I were doing this in a seminar, I'd give you a half an hour for the entire process, and you'd be able to complete it easily and have time to run to the bathroom and check your phone. You don't realize how little time it takes to do this and how calm it will make you. The if-then aspect at the end is to say, play out the scenarios and say, if this happens, then I will. If this happens, then I will. If this happens, then I will. I have on a little Post-it note right here beneath my camera, Lin-Manuel Miranda from Hamilton. I am the one thing in life I can control. I am the one thing in life I can control. So if something goes sideways in the most likely scenarios, how will I handle it? What will I do? So I had this issue, and I don't want to say too much about it because I just don't want to, because it could make it sound bad for somebody, and it's not true. I just want to say that they're really great. But I was working with this individual, and I had hired them to do some work, and the work was not coming along in the way that it was either promised nor executed. It just wasn't being done well or right or professionally. So what I did was I let the person know, and then I waited, because I let the person know and I asked them, it's a request for accountability at that point. So I asked this person, what do you intend to do to make this right? And I waited and I waited and I waited. And my ego began to say, well, they'll just scrap the whole project and you'll have to start all over again, et cetera, or whatever. And so I wrote down my if-then statements. If he comes back saying this, then I will. If he says this, then I will. If he does this, then I will. Whatever he does, I want to think out the most likely scenarios. This is what businesses do. Why don't we do it with our lives? This is what countries do. They plan for pandemics. They plan for hurricanes. They plan for everything. They plan. So plan. Number 1, Stab your problems with a pencil. Write them down. You can do it right now. As soon as you get off with me, if you're not part of our complaint-free meditation group, you can just go ahead and do it. Write down everything that's upsetting you. What's upsetting me, all right? Then after you do that, write out which ones can I do anything about. The ones that you cannot do anything about, I don't mean just go, okay, well, there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, close your eyes and imagine giving this over to a power stronger than you. You either believe it or you don't. You either have faith or you don't. You give it over. Then what you do is you begin to isolate your if-then statements. After you've asked yourself, what can I do? You isolate what you can do, what you have done, and what you can do. And then you do your if-then statements. And then ultimately, you literally have to leave everything over to a power greater than yourself. Because even the things that you can affect some control over, it's not going to go the way you think it is. And I'm not being negative. I'm being truthful.
No more complaining people. Their lives are changing